Regular sales parts when they're broken.
All right, welcome everybody. Just tuning in. We're getting everything set up here to get ready to go live. As you can see, all the trucks, all the racers out there, pretty much ready to go racing. I'm just setting up some final Facebook Live reaction polls and stuff like that for the race. And then we're going to get underway. I'm going to yell in over there at the guys. They all know the rules. Track marshals rule over all. And we'll see how this race turns out. Is everybody ready? All right, they were not ready. They were all looking in here at me like they was ready. You can comment live on the stream, as this series is now closed after today. All right, everybody ready now? Here we go. All right, we're going green, ladies and gentlemen. We got two track marshals, Gabriel Kirtley standing in to track marshal this race, along with one set out for today. So we got 9 racers here total. They're going to be going green live track here. And if the gears strip, they got to come off. If there's going to be no stoppages whatsoever in this series, it's going to be all live. So we get a track call there. We had a car come off. A high speed come apart there in the High Banks corner of the track. Hey, Gabe. If I see something y'all don't see, do you want me to hit the track call button? Okay. So in other words, like what just took place there, we seen Nathaniel Burden's truck come off, and neither one of the track marshals seen it. So I'm going to stay on the button too if anything like that happens, because we don't want anything like that completely destroying the chances of some of these racers out here. But at the same time, we want to kind of keep the flow of this race moving so that people try their best to stay on top. All these guys running very, very good. Fast times earlier today for sure. Clay Dame very impressed with his car as he started out today. He's on white right now currently. Not seeing a whole lot of him having to blitz, so that's pretty good. So we get a track call there. We see Nathaniel Burden into somewhat of a body lock there with another vehicle, Jay Latham's car. Being on these upper 3 lanes, you guys know how tough it is to run these upper 3 lanes. The blip station there, about where Randy Kirtley is on red lane or black lane, excuse me. Appreciate that, love. This gives us a little bit better of a race view here while we're going racing. Hopefully everything comes in good. We don't get any lag out situations. I think this second camera is just a smidge behind, but it kind of times itself perfectly with the other camera, so you can watch them coming around on one and then immediately look over to the left to see the other. It gives you a little bit better of an understanding of what these guys got to go through to get their cars around. The S-turn definitely is a game changer for the majority of these racers, as getting that fluid trigger control to go through there is what makes or breaks you on this track, and also not being too aggressive coming out of the end of the horseshoe there in the backstretch. Guys that get a little bit too aggressive coming out of the horseshoe there tends to make their cars wobble back and forth, and there's 2 dips on the backstretch. So if they hit those dips, a lot of the times their cars come off and they hit that high bank corner down there, that 45 degree, pretty hard and hitting, sometimes busting their axles in two. Last night, Randy Kirtley got here testing and tuning with Paul Woosley, and he thought he had this stuff set up. He thought he had him a body set ready to go for this track and everything. And he came off there in the back stretch and smacked it hard as I've ever seen to snap a Coulford axle in two. So that was something quite crazy to see, really. As you see there, track marshals scheduling ahead there to keep this race rolling as we get what may be a red flag rotation. A car there in the high banks corner of Glenn Burden's vehicle just barely edging out a little bit of the braid, causing his truck not to make good connection. This happens a lot of times. As you can see, that bank is pretty radical there. It's almost a 45-degree angle. So when the cars get stuck there, the tires kind of let them slide down a little bit, and it pulls one of the braids usually out of the recess. So now we're actually getting a lane rotation here. And back to me. Here's my mug. We're going to head over to the track mate. Sorry about that. And we can see Randy Kirtley out in the early lead there with 27 laps. Greg Kimball 26, Paul Woosley 26, Gerald Suttle 25, Jay Latham 24, Glenn Burden 23, Clay Dame 22, Nathaniel Burden with 20. Now, of course, what you're seeing here is what their actual laps are. Everybody's going to be graded on a handicap in this series. This is a handicap series, so all these things will change, dictated by the best race that you could possibly run with this class, which would be 550 laps. So all this, right now, everybody would probably most likely be on the same lap because it's within 10% of each other. So at the end, it could very much change what order these people are in, and then it'll be dictative of where their car actually stopped on the track. So as the series progresses, we're hoping that people both progress in skill, and we also hope that they progress in their averages, because if their handicap goes up, then that means the guys are getting better. And the whole point is to try to make it different than the other stock car tracks you've raced at. You know, a lot of people will put like breakout times and stuff like that, but it doesn't help people that struggle want to push forward, and it doesn't help the guys that are on top try any harder. So we want the guys on top trying just as hard as the guys on bottom not giving up. And I think it's a pretty good thing. It works in golf, it works in bowling. Why can't it work in slot car racing? So we're going to be doing that for this series. If it works out well, when we do series, we're going to have an unlimited type series, pro series, like we had similar with the first NASCAR Fairview IT Cup series, where it is what it is. And then we'll have another series for guys that want more of an average type feel of how racing goes, to see competitive levels increase for more of a learning curve. You see all these guys out there working hard on their cars. They're heading back over there to their track. This is very important now. They get 3 minutes, and then it's boom, it's right back in there to get back underway racing. But still just as brutal, red, white, and green lanes. Thank you for the like. We see Alicia, also called the Twin, says, "Go Jay." Yeah, Jay, he's been busy, not just working on his car. He said earlier he's actually been really busy. Tony Michael Gaddis says, "Go Jay!" So Jay's got him a little bit of a fan organization going on here, as we see Jay actually coming off the track there. That's what I was trying to get to when he come up in here. He brought that new box that he built for Gabriel Kirtley, one of our track marshals, and man, what a beauty that thing is. So he spent some time on that. And he says, I was working on that. I was working on a 4-inch car. I was working on this. He was just working on everything that he could work on. So his focus on the FCR, or the GRC, I'm sorry. I'm old school. It was FCR when I was growing up. But the focus on the GRC may be a little bit lacking this week. But Jay, for sure, even with a lacking car, you can see how smooth that thing's going there on green. Turning in pretty impressive times, but struggling a little bit there on green. As earlier, I seen him run a little bit, and the car is pretty freed up. But being on these top 3 lanes, you have the problem of coming off. You guys know that. And we'll see if he's able to work that out. As Jay struggles somewhat on the orange track here and there. But for the circle track, he's definitely a top front runner and one very hard to beat. But out in the lead here, very close in the lead actually. Randy Kirtley, Paul Woosley, and Greg Kimball all within 1 lap of each other. Randy Kirtley there on yellow, running 35 laps with a median of 4.104. Paul Woosley coming into his own here on the GRC. We've been racing a lot of GTP here, our 4-inch class, lighter weight, lower to the ground type stuff, resembling the GTP series in real life. And those guys have gotten used to the speed, used to the braking zones a lot on orange, because we don't tend to run those on the circle track. So just being able to see that, that's helped Paul Woosley quite a bit. We take away a look at how these guys are coming off and exiting this corner here. You can see how the car kind of slides itself to the left exiting the horseshoe corner. We get a full speed come apart there. I was trying to be quick on the draw, but I had my mouse over in the other screen, so I couldn't get to the continue button very quick to pause the track. But we've seen the cars here, how they slop out there and then kind of get back under control there towards the back stretch of the track. That's a normal thing, but when they start swaying back and forth vigorously, it's as dangerous for not only the guy in that lane coming out on the dips, but it's also pretty dangerous for the other cars as they can come into contact with each other. See Garamel Sire's car there on red carrying a little bit more speed than the others. His is whipping out there a little bit more than most and kind of getting a little bit of a backspin. If somebody was to be on white lane whenever he goes by, they would probably most likely make contact. But Garamel car is pretty solid, pretty fast for sure there on red lane, turning a 1.699. See Clay Dame over there opposite of Gabriel Kirtley there. I think this is his 5th race, and he's in this series here. We blueprinted him a car earlier this week to his specifications. He wanted something that was going to be quick and be able to hang with the rest of the guys in the series, and he's very excited to get involved here in slot cars, and we're of course excited to have him. He thought it was quite funny a couple weeks ago when we told him that the reason we ordered Peach Tea, Hillbilly Peach Tea, was because of him, but he is their main supporter for sure. He loves Peach Tea. Well, Hillbilly Peach Tea anyway. We know for sure. So as we come to an end for that heat there, we still see Randy Kirtley out there with an average of 28 laps. This is the importance of what's going to take place here as we progress through this series. These numbers are going to be very important come towards the end of the season, as everybody's going to fall in towards their average, and they're going to want to try to get better, of course. But at the same aspect, you don't want to come in and sandbag this, because the inverse is also true. You can get laps taken from you if you're outside of it. So it's always best to run the best that you possibly can. Guillermo Sire down there with the average of 27 laps, Randy Kirtley with 28, and Greg Kimball with 26.5, Paul Woosley with 26. So we got several guys just battling out up there up top. The rest of the guys kind of midfield battling at each other, but like I said, we're just getting started here. We got plenty more racing to go as we're only in round robin heat 2 of 9. Take a quick look outside. Sunny day, very, very beautiful. A lot of guys and gals going to be watching football tonight. I think we're going to have it here at the racetrack for people to view. Of course, free of charge. We don't charge nothing for that. But, you know, some of these guys are coming to race here tonight, and some of them are football fans, so they definitely don't want to miss that for sure. Because we pretty much got the whole back row there littered with slot car racers. Got a few guys up front. Got this Dodge Ram here taking up a couple positions. You see my Ford car there. Of course, I'm super lazy, so I'm definitely going to take a front row. I mean, I hate it, you know. I love it that, you know, other people appreciate parking in the back, but if you're here every single day like I am, I don't want to make that walk. I'm too lazy. Back to the oval can, we see a frantic rush of these guys. They got 47 seconds to get back under their controllers. On deck, we got Greg Kimball, so he's going to be coming out this heat. And then he'll go back in on red, of course, respectfully. But we see Jay Latham. He's still up there working on his car. 33 seconds left to go in the top right-hand corner. That box you see there on the end of the orange track there is a box built by Jay and his dad. And I'll tell you what, he opened it up in here a while ago. I had to tell my brother because it was built for my brother. I said, well, Lanes Raceway bought your box because you're not getting it. But he didn't think that was too funny, which my brother, when jokes are about him, he don't tend to think they're that funny. I think they're quite hilarious, but nonetheless, that is his box, built by Jay. I think Jay knows there's quite a work to be done to get those back up and running, getting those boxes built. So we'd love him to make 1 million of those boxes for us, as I think we could sell them pretty easily. Somebody was looking at another car or something, but a car come off high-speed come apart. I'm interested to see what that is. Gabriel Kirtley's got that car in his hand, but I can't quite tell. It looks like maybe it was 2 cars. Don't know whose it is. See Greg Kimball down here on the other end of the track correcting Paul Woosley's car there. Gabriel Kirtley's bringing her around. We'll see who it is real quick. They put him in front of the line. Ooh, Jay Latham's. So Jay Latham's truck there, full speed ahead, not what you want to see. We'll see if that thing's bent or not, but I'll tell you right now, that baby took some hits. It was a hard hit at that, so fingers crossed that thing is still in working order. Back around the track, it looks like it's holding its own. Paul Woosley making a daring dive there on Jay Latham. As his car was very freed up and able to make that. Something I noticed here recently is that the lower you can get the wheels without them touching, the better. I would have never thought that that'd be the case, but of course they have to be freed up too. But we definitely did an experiment on that on the trial oval of the track, and I had the wheels what I thought was at a pretty good height. I was maybe a little less than 1/8 of an inch off of the track, and I ran it around, and I just could not get it into the high 1.7, 1.8 range, which that's what I consider a good blueprint out of Lanes Raceway, and okay to pass to give it to the customer. So I couldn't get it there, and I was thinking, well, maybe I'm bound up. Maybe it's the motor. I started running through all these things, and I wasn't bound up, and the motor's brand new, so it shouldn't have been that. I couldn't figure it out. So I asked Randy Kirtley, I said, well, let me see yours. So I looked at his car and ran it a little bit, and once I ran his car, I realized real quick that his tires were really, really close to the ground, and also that I was about a copper washer. I can't even know the size, like a .04 washer underneath the guide flag, just out of sync with the front. So I put that in and then resorted the front end on a jig and lowered it down. And once I done that, I got it down to about a little less than a 1/16 of an inch, maybe like a 32nd of an inch off of the track, and put that out there. there's a common explanation there. There on white, Gerald Suttle's car getting a little too loose, and that's why I was telling you, if he was able to continue that on just a hair bit more, that would have caused a full upset of that truck to come splashing off there. Like I said, it happens mostly on the upper lanes where that they splish splash back and forth. But he got lucky there for sure. That's why we do warn the drivers to blip on red, white, and green, not only for the splish splash back and forth, but for the dips too. But anyways, there for Clay's vehicle, put that back down to about a 16th of an inch, or about a 1/32nd or so, or 64th off of the track. Put that thing back on the circle track, and it was a different car. That thing was hooking, it was hanging on the inside of the corners, and it was fast. And I was able to turn a high 1.7, and it was at that point I said, she's broke in, she's good enough to go. So we packaged that up for Clay today, and you can see Clay, he's racing there on red lane right now. He's a little bit sloppy there on red lane, looking a little bit like Guillermo Sauer there a little bit. But that car definitely capable, as long as he keeps it from bending, definitely capable for a win for sure. As we head back over to the track mate, we can kind of see another heat down. Randy Kirtley 84 laps, Paul Woosley 79, Gerald Suttle 75, Glenn Burden 73, Jay Latham 71, Nathaniel Burden 68, Guillermo Sauer 55, Greg Kimball 53, Clay Dame 44. So averages all over the place we can see here, from 22 all the way up to 28 as our averages. These guys just getting started here though. Only heat 3 of 9. These are going to probably most likely level out as the race continues. Looking here to the oval cam, we see the guys coming off the track there, going back to work on their cars the best they can, probably clean some tires and do who knows what else. See Nathaniel Burden there with the fire department vehicle there. I think he actually calls that a Thor body, but nonetheless, he's getting his stuff set up, ready to go. We also see right there next to him, Glenn Burden, his dad. He has a cot back here at Lanes Raceway, so he can sleep it off. All his hard race victories, and also has a mailbox put up. Him, Tom Payton, and Paul Woosley. I think they're all, pretty much all those guys over there in that blue table. Paul Woosley started the trend. He used to, ever since he's been here, take that far right position there. I think Randy Kirtley kind of took that from him today, but here comes Randy Kirtley there with the blue and red car. See Gabriel Kirtley up there talking to Clay. Clay working on his stuff. He just got introduced today to the Voodoo drops. He was like, man, I was on the internet. I was checking stuff out, some glue for the braid, and I was like, well, they don't make glue for the braid, but they do make braid conditioner. Comes in the same kind of similar bottle, so it's easy to think that it's glue. And then we got to talking about calm drops and everything else, and Voodoo, for the most part, if you know anything about it, 6-7 Voodoo drops. It's also a braid conditioner too. Well, out there in front, just to the left of Gerald Suttle there, look at that bright orange and pink truck of Paul Woosley. That's easily recognizable for sure. Of course, he's there on orange lane. Guillermo Sauer just inside of him on blue. Oh, we get one hung up there on black lane. Nathaniel Burden was able to come into full contact there, but we get another wreck also at the High Banks corner there. Gabriel Kirtley getting them back on. Randy Kirtley involved red or on white lane with his blue and red car. And Nathaniel Burden's car just getting caught in the carnage of his car coming off. These points will be updated just like last year. or last season. They'll be put up on Lanes Raceway. Now there is 2 series, so you'll have one for the oval and one for the orange. They're running simultaneously with one another, and each one of these series will be updated every other week as we run these series. So we're excited to see how those things turn out for those individuals and see who's going to be pushing for the lead and who's going to be running around middle way, as that's majority of what's going to take place. It's going to be a pretty good knockout fight for guys in the middle in this series, I feel, as all these cars are running pretty close together. And every time guys talk to me like, what should I run? You can see this group of cars there. Nathaniel Burden there on the inside, Glenn Burden and Randy Kirtley, Paul Woosley, and the recently Greg Kimball, all of them just side by side going through there. And I would attribute this to just showing how close these guys are running to their gear ratio selection. I've had every single one of them come up in there and be like, what should I run? And I tell them for the majority, we have everybody running about the same gear ratio, which is a 10-26, 10 pinion, 26 crown gear. And I think that's a lot why you see all these guys matching speed, going through the corners and everything. It makes for a lot more bumper-to-bumper closer racing. Those that they are able to inch them out comes down to trigger control through the S corner and the horseshoe and around the donut. And also, it comes down to how freed up the car is. And a few of these individuals running blueprinted chassis from Lanes Raceway, Glenn Burden, Paul Woosley, Clay Dame, all 3 of these guys running blueprinted chassis from Lanes Raceway. I take about anywhere from 6 to 12 hours working on these individuals' cars to keep them freed up, running good and true, and then strengthen them up. So this is an intermediate class, not a pro class, but intermediate. If it was a pro class, these guys would be racing lap for lap. And there would be no buffer, I guess you would say, to help these guys along if they're just needing that little bit extra oomph to get them to the lead. This is the first time we've ever done anything like this at Lanes Raceway, and Randy Kirtley's car really freed up. As you see that thing come around the High Banks corner there and almost free roll all the way under the bridge. It's very impressive to see. Randy Kirtley also knows how to set up a car. I told him, I said, let me hire you for Lanes Raceway blueprinting chassis, and he told me they don't pay well enough, which that is true. We do not charge a lot to blueprint these chassis. And Randy Kirtley definitely doesn't want to do it for $20 like I do. But anyways, Randy Kirtley in the lead right now. Paul Woosley in second. Glenn Burden in third. Everybody else pretty close together. Like I said, Jay Latham, he's still in the mix. He had some issues early on there coming off first couple lanes, so he's trying to make that time back up. And he's within just margins, 0.6 of a lap average, to be able to make that margin up to get into the top 3 for tonight for sure. Guillermo Sauer there with 83 laps. Greg Kimball, 77. Gerald Suttle, 75. Nathaniel Burden, 91. Of course, I skipped over him accidentally. And then Clay Dame there with 66. A minute and 45 seconds left to go. We're going to head back over to the oval cam. You can see these guys working on their car. We see Nathaniel Burden up there next to the blue table. They're working on his car, pulling his body back off, doing some oiling, gluing, the usual stuff to keep the cars intact and running good. We also see his dad there, Glenn Burden, working on his truck, yelling over there at Gabriel Burden. They kind of got a back and forth. They've known each other for years. The other night, Glenn actually made a comment when we was playing pinball, and he was telling Robert Bishop, he said, the only guy you really got to beat is this guy, and he pointed out at my brother. Of course, they always have a little bit of back and forth, and I find it quite hilarious. But everything's working out pretty well for these individuals. It seems like everybody's running really clean and really true tonight on the orange track. Not too many incidents taking place, as we're already in round robin 5 of 9. The next up will be here on the oval track, will be the next race for these individuals for the oval series of the truck series. And we're excited to see that take place. Got 33 seconds left, and will be back ready to race. Randy Kirtley on deck this heat. He'll be helping track marshal. 20 seconds, Jay Latham going back around the other side of the track. Looks like he's going to make it just in the nick of time. Well, you see Gabriel Kirtley there poised and ready, firing at the bit. I do have our other microphone out there for the SWAT cars. I'm hoping that the sound of that is coming through good. I'm not for sure. It shows one side that it's coming through well, but then it's not showing up on my end whether it's coming up good or not. We go back green racing there. We see Paul Woolsey making a risky choice there on white next to red of Gerald Suttle. He was able to make it out there a little bit as we get a car to come off there. Looks to be Clay Dame's car, getting a little bit wiggly coming out there on blue as he gets his car settled back under control. Another yellow flag. See our track marshals really going hard. Almost like when it rains, it pours, it seems, as several of these cars come off in different locations, too, which makes it even more difficult to deal with. But we get a cluster of racers coming around there, half the pack even, spread out by one lane each. Looks like Paul Woolsey's going to be able to take the advantage on that as he's ripping it through on green. His car really set up well. He posed the other night to help track marshal as the guys ran GRC, and he said he wanted to make sure he got his set up in good order before the series started. He didn't really want to mess it up before then, and I think he chose wisely as he is definitely running hard there on White Lane for sure. Glenn Burden right on his heels though. Both these guys, like I said, running blueprinted chassis here at Lanes Raceway, so let you know that we don't have any home team's advantage here for sure. Guys come in, they want it blueprinted, and I take the time, and you guys got to wait the time if you want it done. That's another reason why they're so cheap. You know, it takes me several days to do it correctly, so want to make sure that everything's good, chassis washed, cut down where they need to be so that the bushings line up perfectly true. Something new that I learned, that these chassis are not all created equal from the factory. Some of the square bushing holes are actually just misaligned. And I mean, I had one of Clay Dame's, his was misaligned by 1/8 of an inch. It was brutal. So, you know, that took me quite a bit of time just to cut that through to make sure that he was rolling true. And we got him rolling true, and his car is very quick. I seen him earlier running a 1.7 lap time on the circle track, which is pretty good. Paul Woolsey there still out in the lead, 132 laps. He's ran a total of 5 of his 8 heats. We still got a few out there that still have 4 heats to run. But the average for him is 26.4. Next to him, 25, Glenn Burden. Jay Latham there with 24.4. He's making some stretch there to try to pull in the gap between him and Glenn. Nathaniel Burden there, 23.2. He's also making a leap towards Jay a little bit there with 116 now. Guillermo Sauer 110, Randy Kirtley 110. Both of these guys tied up with 27.5 average laps. Both of these guys really, really tight next to each other. And then down towards the bottom of the field, we see Greg Kimball there, 25.8, running fairly well tonight. Also, Gerald Suttle there with 24.8, and Clay Dame with 22.8. Most likely involved in some incidents is the reason the difference is there. I'm not really seeing any overwhelming difference when it comes to the speed of these cars, at least yet in the season. Some of these guys on new motors run a little bit better. Some of the other guys on a couple race worth of motors, but nonetheless fairly new for everybody here so far. This week we're also going to have to make another order, it looks like, here at Lanes Raceway. We're running low on motors, as several people come in and bought some earlier, and we're out of a few of the truck bodies that are now in popular demand, the RTR truck bodies. Guys are really liking those. Gerald Suttle has one of the prettiest painted RTR bodies. He got that painted by my wife here at Lanes Raceway. It looks like broken yellow glass, like it's went through Chernobyl or something, but it looks really intense for sure. And we got several of the guys here that rock some painted bodies here from Lanes Raceway, and we appreciate that for sure. 45 seconds left to go. We see Paul Woosley rounding about there with Glenn Burden heading back over to get their stuff put away. Gabriel Kirtley just trying to stay out of the way as the trains are moving. These guys are trying to get to their respectable positions on the track. Paul Woosley putting his vehicle up in the window, as every one of these racers so far have done well putting their vehicles up in the window. We're on round robin 6 of 9 after this. Like I said, we're going to take a 30-minute break in between, and we're going to be moving into the oval race. We're recording this tonight. It will be uploaded to YouTube before I leave tonight. And anything else which we stream will be on Twitch and Facebook Live. Those should be live currently right now. If you got any questions or anything like that, you can always chime in and let us know how you're feeling. Gabriel Kirtley under there checking to see where the shutoff switch is. We get another group of these guys on the lower portions of the track grouping up there a little bit. Paul Woosley's car just very easily spottable. Also, Greg Kimball's here coming around the S-turns there, neck and neck with Gerald Suttle. Both of these guys running hard. Greg was able to come through the S-corners just a little bit quicker there than Gerald. Gerald actually popping out there. That might have been Jay. That was Jay Latham there popping out. But it's very interesting to see these cars, how that they're very close together as they round about this way. Some of the guys are able to inch out just a little bit, but the guys that are inching out on the straight stretch are losing, as you can see here with the car of Clay Dane, able to inch out in the long stretch there, but being overcome there in the S-corners by the orange car and Nathaniel Burden. So both of these guys running very close with each other, and most likely those guys are both running 2 different gear ratios. I know what's in Clay's, but I don't know what's in Nathaniel's. And, you know, like I said, the majority of the guys here running 1026 that I know of. And we don't really keep anything like that secret. So one week, you know, you may be fast, but then everybody's going to ask. And it seems like everybody just jumps in and lets everybody know what they're running. So, and I think that makes for a little bit higher of a competition, too. It's just like dirt track racing. For years, guys ran specific types of chassis, and then they would swap up, so like Mark Bush chassis and different kinds of things, running different motor setups and rear end ratios for specific tracks. So the racers kind of talk, and they always come to a consensus of what they want to run for that season, or even couple seasons for that matter, depending on if it's really well and good. And so that was a very, very smooth heat there. Hardly any wrecks took place there. Glenn Burden now currently in our lead with 150 laps, 25 average total. Jay Latham right there behind him, like I said, 24.5, just half a lap down. Nathaniel Burden just a lap and a half down from these guys, pushing up that. Guillermo Sauer there with 3 heats left to go, and we're starting to see a difference here. These guys, the rest of them have 3 heats left to roll, where these guys, Glenn Burden, Jay Latham, and Nathaniel Burden have 2 heats. And we see the averages increase at that point. 27.4 Guillermo and Randy Kirtley. Paul Woosley, 26.4. Greg Kimball, 25.8. Gerald Suttle, 25. And Clay Dane, 23. Looking in on the oval, we see Greg Kimball there, top left screen, working on his car. Randy Kirtley rounding about the high banks of the circle track to work on his. Guillermo Sorrell there up in the upper left, too, just crossed past the American flag as he's working over there by Greg Kimball. I'm going to take a small break here real quick and get me something to drink, and I'll be right back here with you guys.
Are you talking yet?
All right, everybody, we're heading back green racing here. We can see Jay Latham out in the lead, Nathaniel Burden very close behind there. Randy Kirtley pulling up third as he's trying to make a few more inches up. Guillermo Sauer there in fourth, one lap down from Randy Kirtley. So we get another track call here. Nathaniel Burden's car, as you can see there, he was a little slop coming out of the horseshoe portion of the track there, back and forth. Lost a little bit of control as his car come off there in the blip of the track, hitting the high banks corner. See his dad helping his car along the way to be able to continue on there. A very harsh dive bomb there by Paul Woosley on red as he makes that turn easy. Paul having a lot of experience here as of late running on the orange track. Hasn't ran a whole lot of circle track here lately, but he has been burning the orange track up. Him, Tom Payton, Glenn Burden, Randy Kirtley, and a few others for sure. But those are the ones that come to mind. We had us a wing car race here yesterday, the Big Wing, or as I like to call it since it was in February, Wings and Pizza. So we got pizza for the guys, and you know, just like on Super Bowl Sunday, which is today, you know, everybody loves the wings and pizza. So I thought it was kind of funny. A little play on words there. Most people probably didn't. What do we got here? Looks like I'm losing my microphone. All right. Looks like I lost the microphone there. Hopefully we didn't lose the whole stream here. right, looks like we're back up there. I must have stepped on the cord or something, pulled that thing out, and then messed up the whole stream there for a second. That's my fault. Jay Latham's still there in the lead. Looks like Nathaniel Burden just got passed by Randy and Guillermo as he pushes down to 4th position. Paul Woosley there in 5th position. Pretty close there with Greg Kimball and Gerald Suttle, around 150 laps. Clay Dame there at the bottom as he's fresh on this track, and he let me know earlier he's not a big fan of the orange track. Of course, that's what I hear from everybody when they first start, is they don't understand the rhythm at that point. But as they get the rhythm down, they love it more and more, especially in the GTP classes. 1 second left to go as we're in round robin 7 and 9 here. And it looks like they have something there on that chair rigged up by the S corner of the track that controls the track button there. So we get that red flag rotation. Another pretty clean rotation there for each racer here. As the averages pretty much staying pretty close to the same. Looks like Guillermo took a couple falters there as he dropped down from 27.7 to 27.5 this heat. But we do see some differences and changes here. Gerald Suttle and Greg Kimball there, 25.8, 25.3. Nathaniel Burden there in 4th with 26 or 23.6, and Paul Woosley with 26.5 respectively. Jay Latham out in the lead currently with one more heat left to go while they're on white with 24.7. And I believe Randy Kirtley should be in the lead currently with 27.7. As you can tell, not much has changed in Godzilla. Nikki Hazlip and them, they came down the other night and got in a pinball tournament with us, her and her husband Michael. And she took advantage of her $10 that she had got for being top of the leaderboard for the week, as they both got involved in the tournament. And I believe Michael Hazlip got 2nd place. Randy Kirtley finishing 1st, and Robert Bishop, I think, finishing 3rd, if I'm not mistaken. But nonetheless, everybody had a great time, as we do enjoy that. Robert was in here practicing earlier. He said he got to get some practice in. As you can see him there in 4th place. He got that during the tournament. He was at 14 million on first ball. I had to nudge Glenn Burden, Big Daddy 3, one guy right above him, as I knew that Glenn would be sweating a little bit to see if he was going to get knocked off that 3rd position. I know I was sweating for sure, and then I had to also ask Nikki if she was sweating because he was 14 million first ball. And he did quite well the other 2 balls, but wasn't able to get above Big Daddy 3, me, or Nikki. So we're still kind of holding down the top 3 as of yet. 51 seconds left to go. We'll head back over to the oval. These are some late guys going, trying to get their stuff in order. Jay Latham still working hard on his vehicle to finish up his last heat here, heat 8 of 9. Now after this goes down, we'll probably just leave this portion open so you can see the guys practice a little bit on the oval track while we get some numbers put in the system. And then we're going to transfer over to the oval race shortly after. It'll be about 30 minutes, but we're just going to keep that rolling. I will stop the recording, though, for YouTube watchers, and we'll separate the 2 out. That way there is a difference between the 2, and you don't have to watch all the in-between stuff. But our live streaming crowd for Twitch and Facebook Live, we're just going to keep on rolling live until this is all done. All right, and here we go. We're starting to see the lights drop out here. Robert Whitaker says, looking good, guys. Sorry can't be there. Getting ready for Daytona Vintage Motocross. Looking forward to coming back to race with y'all. Have fun. Robert, we sure do miss you. We know that if you could be here, you would. And we always enjoy you coming here racing and bringing that smile with you, as you do make the place a lighter atmosphere for sure. We enjoy more and more of our guys coming in here having a good time, laughing and cutting up. But I will tell you this, Robert, I do believe that some of our guys today, they got the butterflies going. It's a lot more somber than it usually is. I'm not hearing a bunch of laughing. I mean, I'm hearing it now. It's kind of funny we're talking about it and they're out there laughing, but it's been a lot more somber, more serious as these guys are focusing in for the first race. and it's not really kind of lightened up like it has from our previous season yet. But we'll see how things go as we progress through this series. I think people will kind of get in their own, understand how these trucks drive and how they handle. And I think for the most part, guys will lighten back up to their usual stance and just have a good time with it as they always do. And I'm excited to have another banquet at the end of the series already. I know we're just getting started, but you know, I love letting the guys be able to express what the series means to them, and maybe through this series have a few more things added to this series, like some cutaway takeaways in between the races, and little segments of each individual racer. If we can do that, make time for that, and if we can get the schedule with the guys, and you know, maybe do some like up close and personal interviews with those individuals and what they hold dear to themselves as we progress through this series. And I think those will be pretty good takeaways and something that the guys would definitely cherish for sure too. As we do appreciate our racers here at Lanes Raceway, and we want to always push forward for every one of our racers here just getting started out doing these series races. And something that they could look back on years from now, or their kids could look back on too, and see that, you know, this slot raceway does things a little bit different than most. We do definitely love the credit of our racers for sure, and want to give them the best racing experience that they can have. But like I said, these guys, all of them acting like pros tonight. Hardly any wrecks taking place like usual. But I think a lot of it has to do, like I said, the somber nature of what's going on out here. Everybody very sobered up in the mind, trying to keep their cars on as they know the tracks are not getting shut off as much as they usually do. Only getting shut off if it's a hindrance for one of our track marshals to be able to reach under the bridge and get a car, or one comes off on the backstretch or the high banks. But for the most part, our track marshals are able to get these cars and put them back on quick and fast. Nine seconds left to go. Jay Latham currently in the lead. Randy Kirtley there closing the gap, though, by a tenth of a second per lap. Guillermo Sauer there also on the heels of Randy Kirtley there with 193, taking a few more hits. Paul Woosley there right behind him with 185. Greg Kimball 181. Gerald Suttle 177. Glenn Burton 174. Clay Dane 165. That's the heat for this round robin 8 of 9. We got one more after this. We can see Randy Kirtley still has one left to finish, tied with Jay Latham currently for the lead. Jay Latham will be coming out this heat. He's done racing. Guillermo Sauer there in third place. One more heat left to go, as he is very, very close too with 193. He's on the opposite end of the spectrum of where he really wants to be to turn quick laps. Red and white tend to be a little bit slower, as you have to slow down so aggressively before the bridge. But I have seen people hold their own down there, so it's going to be interesting to see the battle between Randy Kirtley and Guillermo Sauer here. Both of these guys very familiar with the orange layout of the American Orange. Paul Woosley there, 185. Greg Kimball, 182. Gerald Suttle and Glenn Burton, all relative within each other for the next heat. And we'll see how that turns out for these individuals, as they're all going to be fighting there, of course, for third place. 1 minute and 40 seconds left to go. Take a quick look out at the parking again. Oh man, looks like we got a little bit of a traffic jam going on here. Car blocking in the old Ram. That's fine, you know. You can do that kind of stuff here in a little town like Livermore. Block each other in and You know, I don't know if that would be a highly suggested thing to do in a big city. Maybe it would if you want to get in a fist fight. But nonetheless, we got several people here lined out. Some of them over eating at the Mexican restaurant, La Cabana. And then, of course, you have us over here racing hard. So get you a big meal over at La Cabana and then come on over here and race it off. There at the Oval. Doesn't look like there's a whole lot of people here working on their cars currently. 56 seconds left to go till we go back green racing. Everybody kind of clustered up by the pinball machines. They will draw people in. Pinball machines are definitely fun. But you don't have to take them too serious. Kind of like slot car racing. You can play them, have a good time. Costs a little bit of money to play, but the enjoyment that comes out of it's pretty good, and you don't have to take nothing serious. So it's always a good time. We see Guillermo Sauer there rounding around the High Banks corner of the road track, getting his car put back on. 20 seconds, we'll be going back green. Here comes Guillermo. Nathaniel Burden there, waiting on Guillermo. That's nice of him. Letting Guillermo go on by without having to have any kind of scooting up against each other, I suppose. Ooh, a hard hit there. I heard that from in here. I don't know whose car that was that hit. Oh, it looks like Gerald maybe came in a little hot off the S corner there and hit the exit of the horseshoe corner. Jay Latham over there on the donut side of the track marshaling for the guys. Ooh, we get a full flip there from Clay Dame. His car literally flipped out of its lane, did a 360, landed in white lane. That's definitely a clippable moment, as that was a little bit of a snag that happened there. Pretty cool to see. I was actually staring at that portion of the screen when it took place. That was pretty cool. If anything, that lets you know that his guide flag snaps back to the center to be able to do such a move. Maybe start a trick series for slot cars later on. Have to call Clay to come on up here and start doing tricks like that. Pace car there on orange, though, running very, very clean, very quick, staying there with the rest of the guys. Maybe not running as deep as the rest of the guys. We see here Glenn Burden just right there behind him, just waiting on an incident to take place as he tried to run it a little bit deeper than he did the lap before, and they ended up catching him. That's like I always tell the guys, it's literally that close. So you either run it deep, run it too deep, or you run it right spot on. You can also run it too early. But nonetheless, you know, it's within a car length is the whole issue. So, you know, it's really a feel thing that comes down to it. Jay's fixing a body there. I hear Gerald Suttle say, "Hey man, need my body fixed." So front nose looks like it was bent in. T, you might need to go put some water next door. "43 seconds left to go of this final heat for this race. We'll be writing down the track times, and of course we'll update those appropriately. 30 minutes intervals in between. Just wait till the race is over and then go do it. But yeah, it needs it. Yeah, it's still over. All right, Gabriel Kirtley there noticing 3 cars off. No way to get those back on in a timely fashion as he hits the track call button. Wearing a Fairbury Speedway shirt. It could be this garbage too. Something I forgot to do before we started racing is I brought all the cars out there. I wanted to get a picture, but the guys were so ready to race. I didn't want to hold them up, but I wanted to get a picture of everybody's truck bodies and the hard work they put in on them. So we'll try to get that picture made. Of course, these truck bodies are going to take a little bit of damage during this race, but hopefully they still look pretty good. So we can get a good lineup of all the trucks on the circle track. But some of these guys really took their time working on these trucks, and they look really good. And I definitely want to get a picture of that in case we run another truck series. This will be the picture we use, the stock photo, I guess you would say. And that's it, everybody. 9 of 9 round robin heats over. So we head over to the track mate. You can see these times, and we're going to be right back with you. Take a good look at these times, and here in about a few minutes or so, we're going to move it over to the oval cam, and we're going to get everything factored in. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we got everybody set up. We're fixing to move into the oval portion of our race. Everybody ready? Here we go. All right, so now we're back live. Going to do the oval race. As we see right out of the gate, several people already involved in an incident here. These cars are moving on pretty quick so far. No place to put my gum. Nobody likes to see somebody chewing gum like a horse around here. I've done that a few times actually on stream, so sorry about that. But you can see these cars, a few of them, woo, really fast as we get another car there, a red car.
All right, how do we turn this music off?
You'll have to shut the TV off. Evidently, my brother thinks the guys cannot race with music on, which maybe they can't. Now that may make things quite a bit louder. Yeah, for sure. He.
I told him I was, but I'm like,
So we get another track call there, another car kind of leaking out there. We had several of them coming around there together and just a little bit of contact, but not as severe as it usually is, so that's a positive sign to see. My mom stopped by, and she was wondering who was in the lead, and cool to see that Clay's out in the lead right now, as he just got his stuff, well, was in the lead until that coast there, and it looks like Gerald Suttle's out in the lead now.
one that says dying.
I mean, every one of these guys' cars really, really tight and close together. Not really wobbling as much as I usually do in this series. As you guys noticed a couple weeks ago when we was racing the duel, they were all over the place, slipping and slopping around. That was a little bit of a love tap there done from Gerald Suttle there on black, as he gave a little bit of a boot there to Clay Dame's car. So we get another car coming rogue off there, off a green lane, out to hit Nathaniel Burden in the blue lane. I didn't go over the race results with you guys, but let me go over that with you real quick so you can kind of understand how the math and stuff works on this. So we get about 3 or 4 cars coming off high speed there, busting each other up. Give me a sec. Peanuts.
You go on Randy's
Hey,
ticket.
I will tell you this. These dudes right here, no, not those.
Yeah, the nacho ones.
No way. Those are the best ones. The nacho ones, yeah, they're really good. You staying busy over there?
Oh, honey, we're so busy today, and I told Darcy when we get to June, I'm leaving. I don't think this week will ever get to take Sunday.
It's like the worst part of the year.
Don't bring it.
Getting R&D.
Get an RV and pay off.
Yeah.
Oh, listen.
To the
they sent
mountains.
me the stuff on that.
Well, I mean,
Put it in your name.
it's going to be middle, maybe 3 or so weeks. I mean,
Got to the end of March.
that's what I was told. It'd be about 3 weeks. So, you know, I can't do much till then. I got everything.
I had no picking off.
All right, guys. Sorry for the delay here. I like to run my guns with customers that come in, and it just so happens my mom stopped by. I hadn't got to see her in a bit, so I had to talk to her a little bit. But as you could tell from the previous race, Randy Kirtley had 225 laps, but no, he didn't, because we in this series we're running a handicap. So total laps that we use here at the track, 55 or 550 laps, is what can be run, or what we use as our statistical average for the handicap. So Randy Kirtley technically ran 583.75, where Guillermo Sauer originally he ran 221, so he was right at 4 laps down. But after composing and doing the handicap, he actually ran 583 laps also, which both of these guys are going to get rounded up to the nearest solid number, no matter if they're in the tenths or not. So it says 583.75, 583.15. They both got 584. So technically they both won the race, and that's the importance of leaving your car where it's at the end of the race. Then in second place we got Paul and Greg. They both ran 581 and some change, so they're going to get 582. Then we have Gerald there in third place. He ran 580.6, only person in the 580 category. So he ran 581, so he's 1 lap down from second. Glenn Burden, Jay Latham, they both ran 579 and some change, so they're going to be in fourth position, tied currently. Clay Dame, 578, and Nathaniel Burden, they both ran the same amount of time too, at 578.5, 578.35. So they'll end up rounding up in fifth position. So you can see how much tighter it brings these guys and keeps them fighting to try to improve their averages, so that by the next time they race there, that the differences between these guys are not going to be too much, as you could tell. And I think it's going to increase the competition level of these guys. Same thing here on the circle track, because the numbers get pretty radical on the circle track. Sorry that you guys missed that track, mate. A minute and 43 seconds left to go. You guys can watch these guys. I'm going to take a small break, talk to my mom. Be right back with you. Woo! I scared some people there, ladies and gentlemen. Wasn't even 2 seconds ago. I guess you guys probably heard that on the second mic. That baby chimed in there, let guys know 45 seconds left to go. Needless to say, me and my brother's skin kind of jumped from its bones. Heart attack. So anyways, I'll tell you why that took place, if you guys are wondering why I just went nuts out there. So the speaker has a 3.5 millimeter jack in the back of it, and it's splitting the audio signal between it and a TV. So we turned the music on the TV, giving us like the left speaker or the right speaker. And while it's plugged up, it works fine. So it's a little bit loud enough for the guys to hear, like you can tell now, get ready. So they can hear that, but at the same time they can listen to music too when they're racing. And you can keep both of them kind of balanced out. But when you unplug it, it gives full volume to either the track or to the TV. And when that takes place, it just overloads it and it's full volume into that one channel. And it's super loud. So that was full volume at like full 30 volume on that PA system. And it was loud enough to hurt my ears. How that truck there did not get clobbered is a mystery to me, as Nathaniel Burden's car come up the lane and then come immediately back down. Very, very close to getting slammed, but he scraped by the skin of his teeth for sure. little bit of a rough start with some of the stuff that we're doing here for the series. Of course, went over the, I believe, I didn't get to finish it. Sorry about that. We got a guy with a gear getting stripped as a car comes full off there. Clay Dames gets hit and slammed. I only got the last portion of that, but that car really hit hard. But anyways, so we see, I think maybe I did go through these numbers with you. I'm sorry, my head's everywhere right now. But Randy Curley Guillermo tied for first. Paul Woosley, Greg Kimball tied for second. Gerald Suttle, third place. Glenn Burden and Jay Latham tied for fourth. Clay Dame and Nathaniel Burden tied for fifth. So those will be the points they could put up, and that's through the averages of a handicap of 85%. So we're just trying to dial these guys in a little bit tighter to one another. And as the race progresses, there's going to be ups and downs with these guys. Some of them are going to have better luck than others. And, of course, after this race, we'll be able to implement even another number to get their averages down a little bit tighter. So we'll see how that works after we get done here. Well, actually, I'm sorry. It's not like our previous series. So it kind of sounds difficult at first, but Orange is a completely different series than the Circle, so it'll be the same situation here. We'll only have one number to go by as everybody starts on the even playing field for the first race. Clay Dame's car radically out of control right now as it's back and forth swapping. It's either bent or his tires are extremely dirty. Nonetheless, very, very much high aggression coming from the black lane as it was involved in a serious incident previously. Gerald Suttle out in the lead right now with 102 on yellow. Greg Kimball there with 103 on blue. And it's kind of crazy, too, that it's somewhat of a crapshoot here, if you get right down to it, for the majority of this circle track racing, because depending on who's next to you, it really dictates whether or not they're going to put you in the wall, or whether or not they're going to let you pass clean, or if you can both go on the corner simultaneously together and hold it. It's very, very much how the car is set up. So like I said, you just got to work on that. As I hear a gear stripping big time, and that looks to be Nathaniel Burden's gear in his truck stripping out, as it's been involved in 2 harsh wrecks this race. So there's definitely something there. Of course, like I said, there is no stoppage of the track. We go green just as soon as we get the car slipped back in. It's green 30, so it helps keep the movement of this race going. And I'm hoping by the end of this, these guys will be able to race side by side without destroying each other. That's the purpose of doing just wide open green. It's strictly for that reason, so that people don't beat each other's cars to pieces to where they don't run, because nobody likes to be out of the race. Like right now, we see Nathaniel's going to have to hurry up and work on his car to try to get it back in to get some laps here on Purple Lane. Very detrimental, especially down low, is where you turn the most laps. So you got to try your best to race each other clean. If you're faster than them, they need to let you by. If you're slower, you need to let them by, kind of thing, just to stay ahead of the game. It really matters a lot more on this oval track than it does the orange track, because the competitive range on the oval is a whole lot tighter than it is the orange, because there's only one place you really have to let off. So as we come to an end of that rotation there, we can go back to the track mate and we can see here the tighter the numbers are. So our low here, 56 to 63, we're within pretty much 10 laps of each other if you get right down to it. So it's very, very tight in comparison to the orange track. Sometimes guys get a better rhythm, and towards the end it really does get stretched out there. And the medians come into play a lot more on the orange track where people are not used to it. But the circle track, these guys are pretty close together, and it boils down to wrecks at that point. And it's really a crapshoot. Really, it's what are the guys you're racing against. If you're racing against guys that like to race clean, you're going to have a really good circle track. These guys are going to have to start working together. If they work together on the circle track, they're going to be able to turn more laps. Just like the same principle goes, if there's less people on the track, you're more apt to turn more laps because you don't have to worry about wrecking into people. So it's really a give and take, because eventually you'll be at the bottom. So when you're on the bottom, you know, you don't want to wreck people. At the same aspect, you know, people need to let you go by too. Minute and 43 seconds here, we see guys working on their cars. I would say after a heat like that, many of them are bent. A few of them having gear issues, probably a little slop side to side. Dirty tires for sure, as this track runs a little bit dirtier, as it's a little smaller and it runs a little bit quicker, so the tire wear is a little bit higher. Also the braid wear is a little bit higher. Guys use quite a bit more glue on this track than they do the orange track too. So everything's just heating up more, everything's hotter, everything's running hotter. Even tempers can run a little bit hotter even on this circle track, as these guys are pushed together in such a small area on this track only being right at 90 foot. It's a very, very small tri-oval. So we'll see how things shape up. We're only in the third heat now of 9. These guys are just now coming into their own. Like I said, it's not been a real horrible wreck fest for sure, as everybody's trying to keep their cars intact. But I'd like to pull your attention there to that car in the high banks. That is a Monster Energy. We got those stickers from Mid-America, and we created a Monster Energy truck there for Glenn Burden. His number, of course, being 9. And I think that came out really well. You could check our website out and check that out and see what you think of that. But it was pretty cool getting all those stickers from Mid-America and putting those on a truck and kind of giving it a hyper green-esque, like smoke look feel to it. Also there on blue, you see Randy Kirtley's rendition of a metallic blue and red stripe truck. We painted that here at Lanes Raceway. Very much comparable to the already pre-painted bodies that you can get at your local hobby shop, if this isn't your local hobby shop. We're going to head back green racing. As we can see here, guys starting off to a beautiful start. The cars seem a little bit more grippy now, as they're all kind of pulled in tighter and closer together. Not too many wrecks. It's really starting to close the gap when it comes to the GRCs and the 4 inches. As I watch these GRCs, these guys are getting so much quicker with them. 1.8s, 1.7s and stuff down low. They're getting harder and harder to keep track of, as these guys are getting so quick with them. We had seen a nice smooth transition there on purple of Paul Woosley's car. Man, that thing had some nice coast to it. So he's got that car, or that's Greg Kimball's. I'm sorry, Greg Kimball and Paul. Excuse me. Paul Woosley's cars painted up pretty similar. Paul actually has a car painted up with the blue and the pink like that. Paul's current color scheme, though, Paul's actually setting out. That's him there in the high banks. But his current scheme is actually an orange and a pink, and it's pretty cool too. These cars are moving so hard, and believe it or not, evidently there's a braid issue there in the high banks. That's our heater blowing down on that. So it's also our air conditioner. We do have some issues there just because that heat and the cool and stuff is blowing right there on it. We have issues with braid separating whenever it gets too warm and stuff like that. So those could be the issues that they're having right there. Nothing too serious, as it doesn't affect these guys racing too much until it shorts the track out. We've had that happen before and popped all of the circuit breakers all the way down through there. Heard just a little bit of a scramble there of the gear yet again, and we get a car come flying completely off the track there. I hate to say it, but I think that might be Glenn Burden's beautiful body. Whew. Hard to see that baby come off there. We put one night Glenn come in, we were just sitting here shooting the breeze, as they call it, me, him, and Paul Woosley, and I think Tom Payton was here too. Well, we just decided we were going to make us a body. And Glenn was kind of a guinea pig. I told him, I said, hey, I'll do this body for you, and I won't charge you for the stickers if you let me just do it the way I want. So he was more than obliged. He needed him a truck body for the series, and it came out really well, I think. And we were very surprised by how good it came out. But it took all day to make that body. As his car come unsettled there, and it then ended up settling itself back into red lane. That was kind of curious. Sometimes these cars do that, depending on how fast they go. But yeah, not a whole lot of chatter, not a whole lot of laughing going on out there in the racing. We just get several of these guys just high tense, it seems. You know, maybe a little bit of chuckle here and there. Looks like Clay Dame's car experienced some issues there. Don't know exactly what's going on there, but Clay new to it. He's going to be working on something. He's just going to keep his controller hooked up. Maybe he can get her back in there quick. Clay new to it. I'm sure maybe it's not too bad, or he'll probably bring it in here and we'll take a look at it and see what's going on. But it was a pretty hard hit he took. All right, so Clay lost a motor screw. We're hoping that's the issue. But evidently lost full brake. He might have hooked his controller up wrong, and he might not have brake anymore in that controller. But we'll see. He's got 26 seconds left to go to get him some laps in there. He's down quite a bit from the field, but he should be able to make at least a few laps there. It's actually kind of a bad thing that he's down low as he is, but it could be worse. So he's back racing at least. As he gets a love nudge there from the purple lane of Greg Kimball. Greg Kimball just giving him straight to Bullhorn. So kind of an upsetting thing for him to get back in there and then get nudged out. But you know what they say, Rubbin's racing. Sometimes you got to make a decision to just let them go on by. That early on, though, nobody was even settled down. So issues take place. Like I said, nobody makes friends on the oval track, and everybody's just one, like that right there is just one wreck away from having to pick their parts up off the track and start working on it. So it looks like maybe Randy Kirtley, his vehicle is completely out of commission. So we'll see if he's able to get that back under control. Randy Kirtley, actually our series winner from the last series we had for the Fairview IT Cup Series. And up until just recently, he did have a bounty on his head. We were going to do bounty racing here, but we didn't get the turnout for this series as much as we wanted. We ended up waiting a month and got a few more people at least in the series. But we want to have a certain amount of people in the series, and I think just the first series that we did was good for getting started, but we need to progress forward and try to make things a little bit closer, a little bit better, keep competition up there really. As we see Greg Kimball there with 63.3 average, 62.3 average of Gerald Suttle, Jay Latham 58.3, so he's back in the mix there with his oval car. Randy Kirtley 57.7, Clay Dame 48.7, Nathaniel Burton 46.7, Guillermo Sauer 61, Paul Woosley 59, Glenn Burton 54 for the averages. So we'll see how this race ends up entailing and how people finish after the first race. Like I said, if it's any inclination, I can't even pronounce stuff right. These guys are going to be really, really close. And I've just now noticed it here. We've got 1 minute and 36 seconds left to go. But I just now noticed it. I did the math wrong on this for these guys, as I did the 550 laps, which is supposed to be for the oval track, which is what they're racing right now. That's how I did the math. So I'm going to have to go back and do that math again. It's still going to be close, but most likely it'll be a lot closer than what it is now. So we'll see how things turn out. I might actually do that while I got a little bit of time here, 1 minute and 2 seconds. And I'll be back with you guys. Going to go ahead and leave it on the oval screen, and I'll just cut my face off this baby. All right, so I just went back and redid the math there. Instead of for 550, I did it for 250 for the orange track. It is a perfect race. And Randy Kirtley scored 246.25. Guillermo Sauer 245.65. Paul Woosley 244.45. Greg Kimball 243.7. Gerald Suttle 243.1. Glenn Burton 242.35, Jay Latham 241.9, Clay Dame 241.0, and Nathaniel Burton 240.85. So there at the bottom, since Clay scored a dead even 241, he didn't score any plus points, so he will stay at 241 instead of moving up. But Nathaniel, being that he was 240.85, will actually move up a point, making him 241. Jay Latham will be 242. Glenn Burton will be 243. Gerald Suttle will be 244. Greg Kimball will be 244. Paul will be 245. Guillermo will be 246. Randy will be 247. And that is your first race. So we had a few people there on the same lap. And that'll just go as we put the points in. That'll go for the points. We'll do a running total for this, and we'll have that up on the site too, so you can see about where your average is, where that you need to make up time. You can take these averages and factor it in for yourself. The way that we do it is on an 85 percentile, with 250 being the constant, 250 laps being like a perfect race on the orange for the GRCs. So if you put that math in, you'll be able to come up with this math yourself and know exactly what your average is, which is how we do the points here for this series. And I think it's going to make for some really close racing, at least within 15% of each other for sure. as we head back going into the oval here. Hello everybody, I'm back at it. I'll just bring it up here. So it's this bottom section here that'll focus in. That's after your first race. Those are their averages of what these guys within 85% are averaging. I circled Clay and Nathaniel there, my handwriting being horrible, just simply because Clay will not move up with that because he didn't get any point somethings. So it's just one of those things, you know. It could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, depending on where you're located, but in this scenario, it kind of brings him down a little bit. And that's part of it. Whenever you run handicap racing, sometimes you get put down a little bit instead of going up. But Clay's running a pretty good race this race. He's there currently on White Lane, turning a 2.113, a little bit faster than Red Lane there of Jay Latham. On average, though, just a little bit slower, but he's very pleased with the car that he got made here at Lanes Raceway. As he come in here and told me earlier, he's having an issue with one of his motor screws come out on him earlier. Maybe after the race, if that screw makes it, we might put a little blue Loctite on that thing and make sure it don't come out again unless we want it to come out. But when these cars take such hard hits and stuff, it's who knows what's going to take place. But like I said, he's, for being just his 4th or 5th time racing here, he's very consistent and staying on the track and doing quite well with the rest of the guys out here. As I know, everybody that's talked to me about Clay and him just being as new as he is, they were kind of surprised to hear it. So, you know, it's good to see newcomers actually just have a knack for things, for sure. As you know, these guys are very much open to racing against people that can keep somewhat of a pace up. It just helps the flow of racing. You don't get involved in as many incidents. So we got another car coming off the track there. Like I said, down there on Dead Man's Corner, it gets pretty harsh sometimes. Several people coming off, several wrecks taking place. It's a tough world out there for sure. Well, it seems like tonight the majority of the wrecks taking place down there about where Gerald's at, Dead Man's Corner. Hard hits left and right, it seems. Ooh, and that was just a chain reaction there. Several cars going in there together, all three in a line. It was bound to happen. And so Paul Woosley took the brunt force of that and getting moved up to the upper portions of the high banks. If there's any questions you have and you're watching this live stream live, don't be afraid to comment. Let us know. And I'll sure answer them the best of my ability while I'm here. Also, you can call us 278-1400. That's 270 area code here at Lanes Raceway. And I can answer them to the best of my ability. Now, sometimes when you call, you'll get my brother or you'll get my wife. But if you want to talk directly to me during these live streams, you can always get a hold of me. And I can answer whatever questions you have regarding the series, regarding other classes, regarding birthday parties, whatever it may be. Also, our schedule for this week is a little bit different, as we, of course, have the series. This is every other week, mind you, that we do the series. Of course, tonight they're having the Super Bowl, and we are very, very blessed to have these guys come join us tonight on such an occasion as this. Most guys wanting to see that Super Bowl. Greg Kimball there, first place with 317 laps right now with a 63.4 average. Greg's car really coming out of its shell, being pretty quick currently. He's got 3 heats left to run. Randy Kirtley's got 3 heats left to run. He's down a few as he's took a pretty big spill there, busted his car up. He's at 60.2 right now. Guillermo there with 4 heats left to run, 255. He's at a current of 63.8, just a couple tenths higher average-wise speaking than Greg. So he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. Him and Greg's going to be battling this out. Randy Curley's going to have to do some makeup, some makeup that I don't know is going to be possible without these guys having some incidents. Nathaniel Burton there fourth with 50.8. Gerald Sutter with 61. He's right there in the mix with them too. Just waiting on some guys to have some rough luck, maybe a few wrecks here and there. Clay Dame, of course, he had some rough things happen to him while he was on, I think, white heat or red heat 1, and had some motor trouble. So he's going to be down averagely speaking this race, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Like I said, when they're down on average, the next time they come, they're going to improve that average, therefore putting them in a better position. So it's just because you have a bad race doesn't mean you're out of the series. Actually, bad races can help you somewhat, especially if you have a run of bad races. All it takes is one good race to increase that average, and that'll put you up there pretty high with the guys. So it's all about a handicap here to keep these guys pretty even keel to the best part, because some of these guys do have more experience than others, but we want to bring the lower experienced guys up with the guys that do have experience and kind of match them together. And I do believe these guys are within 15% of each other, because most of the time we look at the race and the race is separated within 20 or so laps of each other. So I think 15% is a good start for this series, and all we can do is improve on that. So now for this whole series, it's going to be 85% is what the scale is going to be. But maybe if it was too far of a gap and we need to tighten it up a little bit, we'll go to 90% next series if they want to continue to do it this way. If they don't like it at all and they just want to go true blue, then we'll go true blue. But I think the guys are going to like this. I think they'll appreciate it. It'll make them get a little bit more hungry to increase their average. And I'm really excited for these guys. I'm excited for this series. I'm excited for everything. We're going back to the Oval live stream. We got a group of them going in there, rushing hard there at Dead Man's Corner. All of them running relatively the same. No one really outliered. All of them just kind of sticking right there with each other. Like I said, these stomp motors really closely tight-knit with one another. All about gear ratio. You can either get the top end or you can get the acceleration. Like I said, most of these guys running the same gear ratio. That's why they're not gaining or losing on each other too much. And it's like I say, consistency is definitely king. So if you can race a little bit less aggressive and keep your car in versus these guys trying to pass each other, like you just seen there, as we seen Paul Woosley there in blue give a love nudge to Greg Kimball there in Dead Man's Corner. Both of these guys have both gave love nudges before, so I don't think they hold any grudges towards one another for sure. Nonetheless, it took place, and we've seen it here at Lanes Raceway. I always kind of look up to see the guy's eyes after a good old love nudge. Sometimes they don't take it as well. Other times they do. I think it was just friendly fire that time. But we see back in good fashion here, Glenn Burton in that beautiful green truck of his, trying to make a pass there on the inside. He's trying to get past on the inside on black by Guillermo. It's 3 wide there, ladies and gentlemen. Black, purple, and blue. That blue being Paul Woosley. But my wife here giving a little photo bomb there, I guess you would call it. But Glenn Burton, he kind of lets off there and lets the pressure out a little bit as he likes to reel them in. Me and Glenn's talked about this before. He said he'd rather be on the reeling side. Him and Randy Kirtley going in there side by side. I'm surprised neither one of them made contact there in the high banks and did exactly what happened to Nathaniel Burton and them right there. So Nathaniel Burden there got into the red car, Gerald Suttle, and they both come high speed in there, and their back ends were just a little loose. Surprised that didn't take place on purple and yellow between Randy Kirtley and Glenn Burden, both of them driving as deep as they did and as hard as they was. Glenn Burden actually coming off there, just a little bit out of sync there with the other guys. But like I said, all these guys are so neck and neck. It's hard to make that distinction, especially whenever you're focused so dearly on your own car. We see Glenn Burden in here, man, really just pumping out them laps down low, trying to reel in the black car, Guillermo Sire, as he's really got a nice tight-knit car there on black. And I've noticed a lot of times, too, that on black it's not necessarily a good thing to have one so tight-knit up, not sliding whatsoever. And Guillermo, he come in here earlier, said the tires that we had got him were just too grippy. So he went back to a previous set that he had a couple weeks ago. Maybe they got a little air on them or something and kind of dried out a little bit. And he said they were perfect. So that's what he's running tonight. And you can see he's coming around there nice and tight, but he's still not completely bound up there on black. And that's making a big difference for him to get those top speed runs, especially on the higher lanes there. As I believe his car definitely running a different gear ratio than the rest of the guys. Got a little more torque down low, so he's able to come around these smaller corners a lot quicker than the other guys. It looks like he's got more top end, but really he's just accelerating a lot faster out of the corners and winding his car out. Now his gear ratio is not going to be as good whenever he moves up to the upper portions of the track, like orange, green, white, and red, is he'll run out of gear and his car will be a whole lot slower. Now we do allow them to do gear ratio changes as long as they check that in whenever they go to check their car. In other words, say, you know, I plan on changing this gear ratio out. That's fine. But they got to do that with the time allotted. We don't stop the track for them or nothing like that, as long as it's within the gear ratios that we've dictated legally here at Lanes Raceway. Now, I mean, that is more of an advanced move for sure. It's very hard to accomplish in 3 minutes and get your gear mesh perfectly tuned. But if you can do that, it's definitely something that can take place and could give you somewhat of an advantage down on the lower lanes just by changing it a tooth in the crown gear. Now, you don't want to make too radical of a change because then you'll be offside your pinion and you won't be able to get that back. But nonetheless, I think a tooth here and a tooth there is pretty good to be able to keep these guys at high competition levels. And if they are able to do that in a fast fashion, like I said, down low, the more torqueier gears are better, as we can see that taking place there with Guillermo Sire. He's pretty much just running off and leaving everybody as he's torqued out coming in and out of those corners. Let's take a quick look at Guillermo Sire's times there. As we look, we can see Guillermo Sire turning the most laps there on black. Like I said, very, very torquey coming off that black lane, winding that car out at 69 laps total. Also there on purple with 67. But then as we go up to the higher lanes, he's still doing fairly well, as it seems he's got the rhythm down for the track, but he's kind of equaling out with the rest of the guys here, as we can see 62 and 60 respectively. He's still holding it down on every one of the lanes so far. You can also see his average increasing very, very much as he is used to a trial. We used to run over in Indiana at Darmstadt. My brother and him and Drew Hoagland, my cousin, used to go up there every weekend and race in those races. So he is definitely a force to be reckoned with, and he loves how we tech them down here at Lanes Raceway. He knows we tech them hard and we tech them clean. So, you know, a lot of guys, they kind of throw some shade at that, but Guillermo does like how tight we do tech. Yeah.
Feather foot off.
Robert brings up a good point. He come up in here. We was talking race strategy there for a second. As I was saying, right here, right now, the averages of these guys are going to skew so radically because we don't have a whole lot of races under our belt to justify those averages at this point. So every time these guys get new info, you know, it's going to change. But around the third or fourth race, these averages are going to start even killing out because people are going to start settling down into their skill level of what their average is. And when that takes place, these people, I believe, are going to start letting people by and, you know, trying to race each other cleaner. So as a group, they can be faster because, believe it or not, giving somebody to go on by when they're on a lower lane instead of causing a wreck makes the flow more and makes these people able to run a better race. So it's I'm not going to say that you should never try to not let these people pass because, you know, if you're on a lower lane and those guys are on a higher lane, the same can be true, that you need to keep these people from making as many laps as possible. But those distinctions can be made towards the end of those races. You don't have to race people so hard. The biggest and most important thing is, if you wreck, don't lose control. If you wreck, try to run clean, try to keep it up, and don't wreck. That's right there. We seen right there 4 or 5 wide going through that corner, and this is what results in that. When you have 4 or 5 wide going into a corner, these back ends are not staying completely true in their lane. Now, granted, this is cut, a track that's cut exactly like it's supposed to be cut. I think it's made by Trunkle, if I'm not mistaken. We went and got to Tennessee before we opened. But you cannot ride so close with people because some people like their stuff tight and drawn up where it don't wiggle whatsoever. Other people like their stuff to wiggle a little bit. And then, you know, that scale goes from the very bottom all the way to the very top. So you got to know the guy you're racing against next to you. You got to know, is he gonna let me go by? Is he gonna race me deep? If he is, he's gonna race you deep. I mean, think of it like a chessboard. Like, this guy's going to rough me up if I get near him. So how can I get in his head? And a lot of times you can just race right next to their bumper and stay on them and, you know, match their speed. And granted, you're going to lose a lap, maybe 2 laps. You won't have the best run that run. But in the average of the whole race long, you staying on his bumper might scare him enough to make him just go ahead and come off. When he comes off, well, then you go by him and you get a couple laps, and then you just repeat the process. That way you're never rolling up against him trying to get that lap, you know. Now, if you do have an opportunity to pass him on a straight stretch, by all means, do it. But just pace yourself, time it just right, and that's the difference between, you know, a high average like what you're seeing with Paul, Guillermo, and Randy Kirtley versus some of the lower guys like Clay, Nathaniel, and Jay currently speaking from the orange track. Now, a lot of it has to do with, you know, Nathaniel hasn't been here in a few weeks to race. He's been going through some stuff, and we've been praying for him here at Lanes Raceway. We love Nathaniel. Clay, he's brand new to the game. Jay, he hadn't been here in a couple weeks because he's been doing nothing but spitting out manufacturing boxes, slot car boxes, and working on cars. So, you know, if you just get out of the edge just a little bit, I mean, Paul can even say, you know, back me up on this. As Glenn Burden, Tom Payton, and Randy Kirtley were running GTP for like 3 or 4 nights in a row on the orange track. And Paul comes back, you know, after he'd been off for a couple weeks, went on vacation, I think, or something like that. He comes back with his car that he was pretty much dominating with. It was him and Randy for the most part every race. He puts that car back out there, and he finished dead last. You know, so these guys, they're always getting better at one thing and losing an edge on another. So, like I said, all these guys, they need this average to bring themselves up to, you know, push to that next level. And I think, too, a lot of it, like in pinball, for instance, I know this is a completely different thing, but it has lanes, too. So that's where the name Lanes Raceway came from. Pinball lanes, pool lanes, and slot car lanes. So they all got lanes in common. But after you play enough pinball, you'll notice that you'll get to this point where you'll have a beautiful game. or that you score high, consistently high, speaking on your own terms, like for your score, not necessarily world beating or nothing, but you score high for you. And then the next 20 or 30 games, you don't get nothing. And you just can't make anything happen. But then after those 20 games, you have another great game. And then it may be 10 games in between. And then 5 games. And then 3 games. And then consistently speaking, you make $100 million each game. And it's nothing. And everybody else looks at you and says, man, how are you getting $100 million? And it's just, it's repetition, it's consistency, it's knowing your shots, it's knowing when to pull the trigger, when not to. And the same thing in slot car racing. It's rhythm, it's consistency, it's knowing not to pass certain people, it's knowing when to, check up a little bit and let people go by for certain people. It's a lot of things in racing, and I think that's why it's such a spectrum of racers and such a spectrum of just beauty, really, if you get right down to it. So, we see Greg Kimball here at 436, and as low as we go is Clay Dame. Of course, he experienced some issues here. So, he's right at 300 laps. So on this track, we got a difference of about 100 or so laps between these guys, which would be right about 25% if you get right down to it now. Difference between each other. So 85, bringing it into about a 15% perspective, and increases that guy, Clay, down here at the bottom. It actually moves him up that extra 10%, and it brings these guys at the top down that extra 10%. So that's where it's like it's going to be a fight for who's going to win this series over that, I believe, instead of it being like the normal routine. I know I'm an advocate for this, and I keep pushing this out, but I want this to kind of sink in with you and kind of understand that it's not always about winning, but it's not about losing every time either. I don't want these guys to be discouraged. I want them to be those winners. And I want everybody here to be those winners, that if they go to another slot car track, no matter where it's at, they're going to be there with these guys running. And some guys just need a little extra boost to, work on their cars a little bit more and put forth a little bit bigger effort. Some of these guys, it just comes natural with work ethic. A lot of these guys, they work 70, 80 hours a week. Some of them, work 60 hours a week. But at the end of it, that's a big deal. Do I have the time to work on these cars? Well, those guys that do come in here and make that time, they do really put forth as much of effort to give them the biggest advantage that they can. Now, some of the guys, the younger guys and stuff, they got other things on their mind, maybe out working, out hanging out with their friends and stuff like that. And, they don't have as much time. But they dictate, they say, well, even if I did put all this time in it, I'm not going to be able to beat Paul. I'm not going to be able to beat Guillermo or Randy, even if I did put every bit of this effort in it. That's what I want to eliminate. I want to eliminate that kind of mindset that they can't. I want them to say I can. And I think this little bit of a nudge that helps them push them in the right direction, that gets them close enough that they're like, if I do this, I might actually have a chance. Or at least try something new, and then maybe get involved in the sport of slot car racing to the point that they want to actually get out there and put forth that effort. So it all works out good in my mind, but I am a guy that likes to try really hard. I guess in the video game world they would call me a sweat. So when I get out there, it doesn't matter what competition I'm in, I'm sweating, literally. After this heat, if it was me and I was racing out there in one of these guys' position, first thing I'd do is my car level. I'd make sure it's level. I'd make sure my tires are low enough in the front to the ground. I'd make sure that one side is not out of sync from the other, also known as being bent bad. If it was, and I can take my rear end apart quick enough, bend it back, set everything, motor to it and everything quick enough, I would sacrifice the time to do that versus oiling it or versus gluing my tires. Straightness is king. Making sure my chassis and everything's straight so I don't come popping off the track. Then I'd clean my braids. I'd put oil in my axles. I would clean my tires every single heat with a rag and pump glue in them if the tires are appropriate for glue. If they're not appropriate for glue, I'd clean them really good and run them dry if they grip better. And then I would just make sure my controller's set up, my sticker's put on my car, I'm set true, ready to go. And then it's mental game at that point. It's nobody is going to beat me. That's what runs through my mind. You're not going to beat me. I'm not going to let you win. I'm winning this race. These are the things I keep telling myself, and I just run that over and over and over and over in my mind, and that gets me to the point to where that I'm going to do the best that I can do. Even in my Christian life, that's the same way I do it. Like, you know, when I say I'm going to talk to somebody about the Lord and I'm going to try to win them over to Christ, I've already decided in my mind they are going to be won over to Christ. Now, whether or not they make that decision or not, you know, that's up to them. But I'm going to give it my best, and it's like a war to me. I want to fight it because I don't want to see anybody left without. And I'll tell you right now, you can have all the money in the world if you don't have Christ, you're left out. And you know that feeling. It's just the feeling of loneliness. Because one thing I know for sure is that everybody in this world has let us down. Your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, everybody. And you can give them your problems, and they don't want to hear it. And nobody wants to hear your problems, not even your wife, even if she loves you like mine. Mine loves me truly. But she gets tired of hearing me complain. But one person that never gets tired of hearing me complain is my Lord. I go to him with all my problems, and I'm thankful that he wants to take them all, and I'll give them to him too. And he's pleased with that. So I wake up every morning, and it's like my word of the day, no matter what it is or what I'm reading in the Bible, it's just like him saying, you know what, I'm here for you. And I'm so much more than just here for you. I mean, he makes a way out in front, you know, makes a slot car track work in a poor town, you know, because he loves his people. And I'm one of his people. Me and Glenn, we were talking about it. I'm one of his children, and ain't nothing going to change that. Kip, my uncle, we talked about it last night, and we're just waiting. We're just sitting here waiting till our king comes back. And in the meantime, anybody wants to know about that, I'm always open ears about that. I love talking about that more than slot cars, because he just made a big change in my life. And this place wouldn't be what it is without him. I was telling Clay earlier today, he come in there and he says, man, this place has really grown. And I said, well, you know what? Proverbs is a true book. It really is. You know, you just, and the thing is, there's even one greater than Solomon, and that would be Christ. So his way is even better than Solomon's when it comes to wisdom. So, you know, it is there as a way to live your life. But don't let that just be the only thing. Don't just take the Bible and just live your life religiously speaking. But, you know, also just have that Father there with you that is always excited to hear from you. It's a big thing. It really is. I wish it would just click with everybody. I know it doesn't, but there's no love like it. And there's a peace that comes with it too that I can't really explain to you. It's just something you just experience. You just know you're going to be okay. I mean, that's the peace. No matter if there's fire going on in the next city over, no matter if you got a disease, no matter if what it is in your life, you just know that you're going to be okay. And I believe that's the peace that comes beyond understanding. I really do. And he's definitely been good to us. He's been good to all these racers out here. And he's definitely patient with me and everybody else. So I just want to just let you know that's the foundation of this place for sure. We'll always go back to the Word. And please correct me anytime that I'm wrong, because I definitely don't want to be leading people wrongly. Nonetheless, we are back to racing. I've just got a timeout. My gums get to flapping. You know how it is. And we get the timing out over here on one portion of the screen. I cannot neglect my duties here at Lanes Raceway. But Randy Kirtley out in the lead with a median of 2:10. So somehow or another he come back. Most likely this will be, yep, this is his last heat. So we'll be going out this heat. He's going to have to make a very, very impressive run here. As on average, people are running right pretty close to 50 laps per heat. It looks like even if he did finish the rest of this out, he's probably going to end up just getting edged out by Guillermo Sauer just by a little bit. About 10 laps. And that was because he had a pretty hard wreck early on tonight, and that made him down when it comes to laps there for a little bit. So we get looks like Glenn Burden and Gerald Suttle coming off there. Two beautiful bodies made here at Lanes Raceway. And I'll tell you what, both of these guys, upstanding guys, good racers. Gerald's actually having some issues there with his truck, as I seen the back end just step out there in the high banks corner. Quite weird looking even. It just looked like the back end was dragging maybe. This could be due to just a hard hit and a bend in the back. These guys are coming full speed here, busting each other up. So I hope he can figure out what's up with that and get it worked out pretty good. Other hard hits down there. Greg Kimball able to get those cars put back on pretty well. 6:47. We're making pretty good time here tonight also at Lanes Raceway. We was kind of worried whether or not it was going to push in a little bit later, try to get these guys to their Super Bowl for the ones that want to make it. So we tried to, I don't know when that starts, but I know it may have already started. But nonetheless, maybe get these guys out where they can catch a little bit of it, not have to get a text message showing them who won and who lost. It was supposed to be on here at Lanes Raceway, but I don't think we had the time to get that swapped over. It's very disappointing. I should have made time, and I have really no excuse other than just doing what I've been doing. So Randy Kirtley there, he's going to finish up there with 485 laps total. I'm going to go ahead and get him wrote down here and maybe get his stuff fixed out. See, is he the only one that's finished? And he is. Everybody else still has one heat left to go. Okay, so out of the handicap of 550 and 85 percentile, Randy Kirtley has finished the race with 540.25 with 1:35 seconds left to go. Let's see what the night's looking like. So it still looks pretty clean out there. What in the world? Looks like there's a flashlight or something out there. I don't know what's going on there. Something's weird. It's happening outside Lanes Raceway. I don't know. You want to look at it? I might just be a bug hanging from the light too. You see it right there? I don't know what that is. Could be. Wasn't there a while ago?
There you go.
Uh-oh. You done made her day with them chocolates.
There you are.
What do you say, T?
That'd be great.
As we can tell here, we see Nathaniel there, Paul Woosley over there in his flannel. I wonder if Randy Kirtley's wearing a flannel today. Yep, they're twinning up again. Randy Kirtley, Paul Woosley. It's almost like they give each other a call before they come in and they say, hey, let's wear these flannels tonight. These guys love wearing their flannels. Jay Latham there, he's getting his car put back on. Like I said, you see these boxes he's made there on the orange table. Beautiful. Beautiful boxes. Greg Kimball also, he's ready. He's biting at the bit. Last heat of the rotation here. Guillermo Sire, he's coming back around. Six seconds, we'll be going back green racing.
Each can. Well, that's all right too. That's what it's for.
All right, we're back green. This is the final heat here, and then we're going to do some math. We get two come into contact there. Randy Kirtley able to get that car put back on black and yellow. We going back green racing. It looks like Gerald's car come off there on purple.
Candy? You sure?
All of them single file line there. You kind of seen there right there where Randy Kirtley is touching Glenn Burden's truck there a little bit. Also Nathaniel Burden there on the high side. They kind of got into each other there. It looks like Randy was able to fix that, put Glenn back on orange, but they got a little loose and knocked him out of his lane there. He's back in there, and we see Glenn Burden making that pass there on the high banks on Nathaniel. Nice, clean, and quick, smooth run there as he tries to reel in Gerald Suttle there down on purple. But underneath him on yellow, as he comes out of the slot, Paul Woosley took him on the inside as Glenn Burden and Clay Dame get involved in an incident there in high banks. So now we have 5 of the cars lined up there in the high banks as we go back green racing. It's going to be a pretty high turning lap race here for each one of these individuals for our first series race here at the Oval. Looks like the blue car of Clay is kind of stepping out there, possibly bent in the back a little bit. So we see it looks to be Guillermo Sire's car coming off there in a high-speed come apart in the high banks as he gets his car put back on white. Wife behind me getting sodas. I would come in here at Lanes Raceway and get you a soda. We got several different types, some of them specialty type sodas. Kids definitely love them. As we get Nathaniel Burden's car coming off there and falling into white. Robert Bishop quick to the rescue. He was going to get it fixed if Greg didn't. Minute and 13 seconds left to go. These guys are back single file, trying to bunch up a little bit as a couple of the cars come off. One thing I've noticed, this track here is run on power supply. We don't have any battery backup here. So surges, I believe, are taking a little bit of precedence here. When a car comes off, there's just a tiny surge. And sometimes if you're right there on the edge, other cars do come off. I kind of felt it the other night when we were running the NASCAR series, or the Cup Series, Fairview IT Cup Series. And you could feel it. Now, I don't know if you can feel it so much on these cars. I haven't really raced in one of these races, but maybe once or twice, and I don't recall feeling it at that point. But that'd just be, to me, not really racing them as much. But we just seen right then Gerald Suttle's car coming off there on purple. As he dive bombs down low there on purple. Gets a little bit of a love nudge hitting Paul Woosley, but then Paul Woosley able to hit Clay Dame and knock him out of the lane. A little bit of bouncing back and forth action. .42 seconds left to go. We got some tight racing down low and a car to come off there in the high banks. Glenn Burden's as he gets put back on green. It kind of went up one lane very frantically, said track, as he knew that he was coming around the high speed portion of the track. There, a little bit of a dive bomb down low. Clay Dame taking advantage of Glenn Burden there. Able to get the pass in. Clay Dame running a 1.923 there on blue. Paul Woosley and Jay Latham really running quite well there on black and yellow. 1.8 second lap times. These are very quick times. I've seen as much as 1.7 on those laps down low like that. So these guys are definitely running right there within a tenth of a second of that. It's boiling down to this. Looks like one lap separates Glenn Burden from Jay Latham. Will Glenn be able to inch that little bit that he needs to catch Jay Latham? But still, yeah, with the overall average handicap that we take place, these guys could be on the same lap no matter what. T, I need you. Ten seconds left to go, and then we're going to be heading out to check the cars and their locations. All right, everybody, don't touch your cars. All right, I'm going to leave you guys here with the TrackMate, and I'll be right back with you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here it is. Guillermo Sire is going to end with 544.45. Paul and Randy, both 540 point something, so they'll get 541. Greg Kimball, 541.6, so he'll be 542, so he'll get second place tonight. 533.5, 33.5 of Gerald. Glenn Burden, 538.15. Jay Latham, 538.45. Clay Dame, 528.1. Nathaniel Burden, 529 even. So Clay and Nathaniel, of course, going to tie out. Looks like Glenn Burden and Jay are going to tie out. We also see Greg and Gerald, or I'm sorry, Randy and Paul going to tie out. So where I took the picture of these guys' cars, of course, that's going to come to a matter, and then we'll associate where they turned for the end. But anyways, you can kind of see how I did the math here. Out of 550 laps is a perfect race. There it is. If you want to compare, do your own math. Anyways, that's Donovan Kirtley here at Lanes Raceway. Thank you for watching. Tune in 2 weeks as we continue the series. We'll have this stuff posted up on the internet as soon as possible. And God bless you.